I think we're ready to start, right? Let's start. Since you guys are first, so a couple things. It's on the screen, but because we have the lights on the screen, we can't really see it. But
we can.
Oh, you can't. You can see. Okay. Oh, you have a secret?
Let's try this.
Well, yeah, that's what I was using, but then you can't see me real well, at least for the beginning. But this is cool. You guys want? I think you'd rather see the screen, right? No input. Does that mean I need to keep my computer on? Yeah, but if my computer goes off, so I got to figure out how to keep my screen on. Well, we'll just have some fun. No, this is much prettier. Don't you think this is much prettier to look at than myself? You guys want to look at that, right? Yeah, me too. So since there's so few of us here, a couple things. If you look at this website right here, this is my website. If you go to sandrewlloyd.com/pdf, you can see the full score that we're going to be looking at this piece that I wrote, Christus, a lot today. So you can see the full score on my website of the two movements that we're going to be doing. But since there's so few of us, I did print some copies. If you guys would rather have copies of the score when we get that, you'd rather have that? Who else wants a copy? All you got.
I can sit by somebody and share.
I got 10, right? So the piece is 86 pages long, so we printed it in two parts. So you get two parts.
I'll go sit by Haruhito.
Haruhito's a nice guy. You probably should. Yeah. Can you just pass those back too? Sorry. Who else wanted one? You guys all wanted one? Okay. Does everybody want one? I think I have enough.
Yeah.
There's 10. Paul, it's good to see you, buddy. So glad you came, my friend. You guys want one? All right. Anybody else want one? Yeah? All right. There you go, young lady. Oh, there you go. But even still, if you want one too?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody wants one. All right. They're beautiful. The actual score is down there. I brought the actual score, but this is more to save a little bit on costs, I think. But anyways, cool. Well, listen. Just to start off, I'm thrilled to be here with you, and just so glad that you guys came out today. Just so glad to have you here and to be at this university. I'm so grateful for the Marlon K. Jensen residency at the Tanner Humanities Center, Bob Goldberg, who really made this happen, and of course Beth James, Susan Anderson, who raised all the money for it, and of course Paul Reeves, who's here, who's over the Mormon Studies Initiative at the University of Utah. So he's doing a lot of amazing things. Trying to understand Mormonism and the arts in our culture. So glad to have him here. And of course, you guys, the School of Music here has been amazing. Dr. Chuaki and Michelle Addison, Claudia. So you guys all know these people, but they really went out of their way to make this possible for me to come out here and do this. We have some incredible guest lectures coming in the future. So I want to tell you a little bit about the residency. So Marlon K. Jensen he essentially was like historian and recorder for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Many of you probably know him a little bit or have heard him speak and whatnot, but he did a lot to increase the transparency of the church and its historical archives and really open up the church historical archives to the broader community as a whole. That was kind of his thing. So in the spirit of that and the vision of that goal, I'm really striving with this residency to open up LDS artists to the community. And so to introduce you to different composers from all over the country. We're doing 2 public concerts with the BYU Singers, with the Cantorum Chamber Choir at the Cathedral de Madeleine. So that's on the brochure outside if you grab that. So it's going to be fantastic. Those concerts are next semester. So keep those on your radar. They're going to perform some of my music. I'm going to accompany them, and they're going to be just tremendous concerts. Then, of course, we're bringing in 6 guests, other than myself, 6 lecturers, 6 Latter-day Saint composers from all over the country at major universities, and they're incredible. We have some jazz, a guy who specializes in jazz and has had 5 recordings put on the ballads for the Grammys, which is pretty amazing. We have on October 18th, we have Lisa Despain, who specializes in theater music and is amazing in New York on Broadway. So that'll be kind of fun. But we'll have electronic music composers. We have more art music composers. We have just a huge variety of different people coming. And most of the other composers, they don't identify themselves as Latter-day Saint composers, if you will. And that's what this residency is about to some extent, understanding Latter-day Saint arts. But they are composers who write jazz and theater and electronic music that happen to be Latter-day Saints. So they're going to talk about their communities, what kind of music they write, and how they influence their communities and open doors, build bridges, those kinds of things. In contrast to many of them, my faith is in my traditional, my experiences in the Church of Jesus Christ heavily inform my music. I'm passionate, deeply passionate about writing sacred music, and that's what I love. And there's a historical precedence for this. We see this in the music of, for example, many of you are familiar with John Tavener, whose Greek Orthodox tradition, or Arvo Pärt, right, whose music is heavily devoted. Olivier Messiaen, whose Catholicism, his Catholic devotion permeates every aspect of his music. Johann Sebastian Bach, his Lutheranism, right? Mendelssohn, we love the music of Mendelssohn, but earlier on he wrote Elijah, a great oratorio about his Jewish background, but he converted at some point to Christianity, and at the end of his life, before he passed away, he was working on a piece called Christus, which used to be up on the screen. That really leads me to wanting to talk about my piece, Christus, as well, which I feel like my music fits into that tradition of sacred concert music, sacred art music, and it's a small voice in that tradition. It's something that I'm passionate about. And so I'm hoping that you enjoy listening to this music today. We're going to look at two pieces. We'll look at the opening movement and the closing movement. I'm going to talk about it. I've got some anecdotal things to talk about, which some people love, programmatic things, but I've also got some technical things for those of us who really love to hear how it's structured and analyzing the music. So I've got a little bit of something for everybody. But just a little bit about Christus. I wrote Christus right when I graduated from University of North Texas with my doctorate. And it was at a time I had lost my fellowship. I had no money, basically, and I was living in a 900-square-foot apartment with 4 kids. And I told my wife I wanted to write a large, hour-long piece about Christ. And she's like, "You're kidding me, right? We got to go find a job." And anyway, it took me 2.5 years to write. Of course, she was very supportive. I don't want to throw my wife under the bus that way. But what I wanted to try and tell you is it was an incredible experience in my life, having been at a place where I had nothing, and to be able to, I think it really put me in the right place to write this piece, which is a piece which is ultimately about Christ and his hands being outstretched, inviting others to come unto him. And I really drew inspiration, obviously, from the Christus statue at Temple Square, and kind of starting from that. But I decided to drop that idea into a Catholic Mass, which is, much more ecumenical, if you will. And I imagine this piece being performed in that kind of a setting, but with an infusion of maybe some of my Latter-day Saint beliefs, which I think is at the core of this piece. Christus, there's so many things I could talk about, but I wanted to start off by talking a little bit about, and you don't want to hear me talk, trust me, you want to hear the music, and we're going to get into it as soon as possible. But I want to give you some things to think about as we listen to the first movement. But the thing I really want to talk about first is form. I decided to just rethink how I thought about form in this piece. And, I always thought about form linearly, and I thought, I want to think about form more three-dimensionally. So what if the second movement starts, and then maybe the third movement starts, and then maybe the third movement ends, and then the second movement ends? What if the second movement doesn't have to end before the third movement ends, right? It's just a different way of thinking about things. Or what if I have the piece end with a B-flat major chord, which is interesting to think about when the opening pitch of the piece is an E-flat. B-flat, E-flat's a tonic dominant, so it feels like the piece is circular. There's no beginning and end. Or what if I put the amen of the piece, which is always in religious music, you always have this amen. What if I didn't put it at the end of the last movement? What if I put it at the end of the 8th movement? All these things I'm telling you are things that I did with this piece. And it made me really think about form. One of the major formal indications of this piece is early on, when I was writing the first movement, I placed Jesus Christ in Gethsemane, pleading. It's a Kyrie eleison. If you're familiar with the Catholic Mass, the Kyrie eleison is Greek for Lord have mercy. And then you hear Christe eleison, which is Greek for Christ have mercy. And then it usually ends with a Kyrie eleison, Lord have mercy. And I placed Jesus Christ in Gethsemane, pleading to the Lord for mercy. So you hear the opening baritone soloist sing Kyrie eleison, that's Jesus Christ pleading to the Lord for mercy. And then you hear humanity, the believer, if you will, pleading, Christe eleison, Christ, have mercy on us. And over the top of that, you have the text, my Redeemer liveth, and his hands are outstretched still. I thought when I was writing this piece, do I really want to start with the birth, the ministry, the passion, the crucifixion, resurrection? Do I really want to go in that order? What if the resurrection happened at the beginning of the piece? Or maybe the resurrection is always there. And I imagine myself in this piece being in a sphere. And everywhere I look, the resurrection is happening all the time right behind me. Crucifixion is going on all the time right behind me. But I may turn this way, and I may see more of the passion or the ministry. But they're all still there. All the themes, the ideas are all present simultaneously. And to me, it portrayed more of an infinite nature of Jesus Christ's hands outstretched in glory, in power, in creation, in love, right? Which are things that I believe in as a sacred music composer. And so that's why I went with this piece. So you're going to hear this juxtaposition of resurrection with crucifixion, with Gethsemane. Speaking of crucifixion, I really want you to pay attention as we listen to the first movement. Christe eleison, it's on the first page of your scores. If you see there's an opening chord in there, I don't have the piano out here, but if you can imagine with me, the opening chord is essentially a G major chord with an E flat minor chord right above it. And they're separated by a minor second, or that E flat is the flat sixth. I'm getting technical for any music students in here? You guys, all music students? Oh, you guys, this is theory 101, right? Yeah, so you can understand, you can envision this. It's essentially light and darkness in one chord, which paints a picture exactly what this piece is about. And really at the golden mean moment of this piece, you hear this chord in glory, and you hear these pulsating, pounding, throbbing notes. And I wanted to paint a picture of Jesus Christ on the cross. I'm really using the text from Isaiah 9, his hands are stretched out still. And I remember when I was taking composition lessons at University of North Texas, I was writing this piece. And my teacher said, I always thought it meant his hands are outstretched, like come unto me, right? Come to me. He says, no, I think that means that his hands were stretched out on the cross. So I actually painted an image of his hands being stretched out. And then the very next text from the choir is, his hands are outstretched still. So I have that juxtaposition of that text. What does it really mean? Does it mean his hands are stretched out on the cross, being crucified, or are they outstretched? Well, I propose that they're both. So listen for those things. We'll talk a little bit more about that opening chord. I call it the Christus Chord. We'll talk about it a little bit more after we listen to this first movement. You guys want to listen to it? I want to listen to it, right? I don't want to hear myself speak. Tell you what, we're going to go. This box right here that I'm circling, that's that Christus chord right there. You can see the pounding pedal representing the nails. All right, let's see if this works. When we performed this piece, it was a Mormon composer working with an ecumenical choir, writing a Catholic Mass, premiered at First Presbyterian Church in Fort Worth. We had to raise $7,000 to make this happen. Video production, audio engineering. We did a recording of it, which you can see down below. It was really an exciting opportunity, a lot of community involvement. We had 900 people at the premiere. So. Let's see here. Oop. Uh-oh. Come on, people. Well, we may be listening to the rest of this, right? Tell you what. You guys want to listen to the rest of it? There we go. All right. We're going to get there. We'll figure this out. That's good enough. All right. You guys get a sense for just what I was going with the piece. Believe it, the only edit I had to make in this whole video was that last Kyrie eleison. He totally messed up in the performance. So I had to go in and take a rehearsal performance. So luckily I recorded all of our rehearsals so I could do that. That was the only edit I had to make in this whole 1 hour piece. That shows how amazing this choir was. And you can see on their faces, especially when we watched this last movement, they loved participating in this community event and this experience. Is the door open for people? I know people are coming in late. Should I just give them a shot? Okay, good. We're good. So the one thing I want to talk about next was the Christus Chord. So that opening chord that you guys heard. What do you guys think of it? Do you guys like that chord? I love it. I think it's really, really electric. But let's just break it down. I just want to just do a little bit of analysis and show you what's going on here. Presentations. Let's try this again. All right. There we go. Okay, so there's the Christus Chord right there. Essentially, that helps out quite a bit. You can kind of see, of course, it's a major triad with a minor triad, just a half a step up from that C. You can kind of see that. So when I was analyzing this chord, it's really robust. There's a lot of really cool features of it. And you can see that if I break it out linearly, it's actually a series of minor thirds and minor seconds going all the way up. And it actually, I don't know why I have that line there. I can't remember why. That's basically the beginning, but it keeps going for this reason. It's essentially a series of it's symmetrical, so the going backwards and forwards is the same. There's no tritones in this pitch class set. I don't know. Have you guys looked at sets and stuff like that? Does that sound familiar to you guys? Yeah, some of you guys. Yeah, cool. Okay. No tritones. And the missing notes that you don't see here in the aggregate form, so the 12 tone, is actually a tritone, a transposition of tritone away. So that's kind of cool, right? So there's no tritones, but the transposition, too much. This is actually a series of major minor chords. So look, you have F major and minor in one, right? You have A major minor and C sharp major minor in the whole set, which I think is really cool. So I really explore this in the piece we're going to listen to next. You're going to actually hear me go through F major, F minor. Well, not. It's actually doing it in D. So it's a D major, D minor, and all of the things. You're going to actually hear the choir transition through every single one of the keys that are up there, which I think is kind of fun. But this is actually, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Messiaen's modes of limited transposition. Does that sound familiar to you guys all? Well, you'll want to learn more about it now. So this is actually a truncation of one of Messiaen's modes of limited transposition. Basically, his modes, like this scale right here that you see starting on F, you can only transpose 3 times. So once you transpose it up 3 times, then it becomes the exact same, starting at like A probably. It's the exact same intervals. Does that make sense? The exact same mode. So you can only transpose it 3 times. But you can transpose a C major scale how many times? Lots of times, right? You could transpose it B major, F major, whatever. You can transpose it 12 times. This is only transposable 3 times. Or 4. I think it's 4. All right, we already looked at Christe, so let's go back. So I really want to talk about the Hosanna. So I actually used the linear form of the scale. So if you look at the second booklet and you go to the last movement, we can do this because we have so few of us. We can actually look. It's like a class, right? You guys enjoy? Hopefully enjoying this. It's mostly me yapping, right? But you can actually see it's on, I can't remember which page it's on, but it's very close to the very end. What page was it? 73. There you go, page 73. I think page 73, or maybe it's 74, you actually see like a bunch of like 16th notes. That's actually a linear version of the Christus Chord, okay? And then on the next page, when the choir starts coming in, you'll see that they start on D major, Hosanna, and they go through D major, B minor, B flat minor, B flat major, whatever they are. They go through all of F sharp minor, I think is one of them, but they go through all of those keys before it gets back to D major, which I think was kind of fun. That's where you kind of see the Christus Chord. So before we listen to it, how are we doing for time? I want to make sure that I'm not killing you guys. 27 minutes, so we got 30 minutes, or 20 minutes left. That's perfect. 11 minutes and 10 minutes for questions. If you guys have any questions, I know Paul's got tons of questions. I can see it on his face. No, the Hosanna was a special movement for me. I think this movement has more of my Latter-day Saint belief structure in this piece than any of the other ones, if I can speak academically about it in any way. The piece, I was just heavily inspired and leaning towards doing a movement about the creation, just because these hands were the hands that created the universe. And so the piece is in 7 sections. And now it's going to be difficult for you to know what those 7 sections are, because when I actually listen to it orally, I hear like 4 or 5 sections. But it's in 7 sections. The opening chord represents light, opening light, which is a response to the 8 movements that had come before it. And then the 16th note passage represents the face of God moving upon the waters. So you're going to hear those I'm painting a picture of the 7 days of creation. Over the top of this, you're going to hear references to a Mormon theology in the Book of Mormon, 3 Nephi 11, where Christ appears to the people on the American continent and his hands were outstretched. So you're going to hear symbolism there and references to that. Now, the piece has this dichotomy between the Hosanna that everybody knows, this Hosanna of praise, but the actual meaning of Hosanna in Hebrew is save us, O God. It's actually a supplication. So it opens with a loud praise Hosanna, but ends with a supplicative Hosanna, which I think is really beautiful. So it ends with rest. It ends with the 7th day of creation, which is silence and rest. And the audience was perfect for this, because after the piece was done, they waited 18 seconds to clap, which to me is like a lifetime in performance and concert settings. So anyways, I hope you enjoy this movement, and listen for the Christus Chord in there. Listen for some of those other things. Hosanna and excelsis. This is 11 minutes long, so I think it works out good. We'll have 10 minutes for questions at the end. Or we can listen to more if you guys are just like, we have to listen to more, Dr. Lloyd. All right, we're not going to start from the beginning. We're going to start at measure 59. So right before the Hosanna starts, you hear the soprano singing an Amen. And the Amen is an exact quotation of the Kyrie eleison at the end of the first movement. So it's really a special moment. But anyways, here is the Hosanna, if the internet will behave. There we go. All right, light. Anyways, I think that felt like that silence was probably the most beautiful part of the whole piece, in a sense, you know. Listen, friends, you guys have been an incredible audience today. Thank you for sharing this piece with me, and thanks for being here. I love being on this campus. You have probably the most beautiful musical facilities in a music school in the country. I've been to a lot of music schools, and there's not a place like this. So take advantage of it. You have incredible teachers here. You need to take advantage of what you have here. It's incredible. And I'm just so grateful that I have this opportunity. We have a few minutes for questions. If you have any questions, great. If not, we can listen to something else. But any questions that you have, I'm happy to answer. So, yes, sir.
So I feel like in comparison to a lot of Latter-day Saint composers, your music is a lot more classical and complex.
Absolutely, yeah.
How do you think that aids in bringing about your purpose for music?
That's a really fantastic question. I hope I can answer it well to your liking. For me, as a composer and as somebody who writes sacred music, I'm very deeply passionate about sacred music and the music that's been written. And one of the influences of this piece that most people don't know is Monteverdi's Vespers, which was written in 1610. And I was heavily inspired by that piece. There's just something about being in those glorious edifices that many of our ancestors or people that came before us erected to glorify God that is magical. And I wanted to write music for that space. I'm heavily inspired by composers like the Duruflé Requiem, right? Or John Taverner's Protecting Veil, Arvo Pärt's music that evokes an image of the divine in more of a concert setting. And I think that's exciting for me. And I love engaging my communities, non-Latter-day Saint communities that appreciate and love this kind of music. Like I said, at the premiere, we had 900 people there. That audience was packed. People were excited about this piece, and they were moved by it. And that's exciting for me, you know, to be a composer of sacred music that happens to be Latter-day Saint, but writes music for a Catholic church, which I love. I love my friends in the Catholic Church. So, yes?
I appreciate that you used a form that's very familiar to the wider worldwide Christian audiences.
Yeah.
As kind of a basis or springboard to rethink it and everything. It makes a beautiful piece like this so much more accessible and be able to share in many more ways. But I also liked a few things in there that symbolically you represented that like for example, the idea of the sphere and time is one eternal round, like a ring, no beginning, no ending, that kind of thing, would resonate with an LDS audience, maybe other people as well. But it's just a different kind of conception, not linear time, you know, you're not having to start with the traditional forms or time is a linear thing.
Yeah.
You kind of got events happening simultaneously all at once, which by the way, if you read like, if anybody's interested in near-death experiences or whatever, the people that have come back from those experience time the same way, or there's no time, or however you want to describe it. Everything is happening all simultaneously or whatever. The other thing I really thought was very special was the imagery of the hands outstretched, had a double meaning.
Yeah.
That I hadn't thought about personally before.
Yeah.
But it totally makes sense. I just have never thought about it in that way before.
Yeah, it really opened up a world of explosive creativity. And I try to pick topics and themes that expand my mind and allow me to be more creative and not put myself in a little box. So I'm so glad you shared that. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I was going to ask about inspirations. You kind of answered that in response to my friend here, but just any other inspirations that went into this piece? Who do you look to for composition? And I guess I'm just interested. I just like this because it's very, I guess, kind of unique in an era where a lot of composers are trying to write in very, avant-garde styles to set themselves apart. So this is kind of a return to form in a sense.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, actually one of my biggest inspirations is not in music, it's in art. And of course the opening painting, which I don't know if it's still up there. Nope, looks like I probably can go back. We'll try it. is by one of my dear friends, J. Kirk Richards. And we have a really good collaboration. He allows me to use his artwork on my music. And I find he's a Latter-day Saint artist. I don't know if you're familiar with his work at all. But he uses a lot of classical themes, like he paints angels with wings, things that aren't necessarily a part of Latter-day Saint theology. He uses more abstract themes. When he paints Christ, it's never the same image twice. Like it's very abstract. And so I find my music gains a lot of inspiration from that. I try with my music I love early music. I love all music, actually everything. I love it all. But I'm heavily inspired by, to some extent, the past. And like I said, with this piece, I started from Monteverdi's Vespers in 1610, and I imagined what would it be like to write a Vespers or a Mass starting from that point. And then everything in this piece sounds extremely fresh because they would never have heard Messiaen at that time, or some of those crazy harmonies. So it would have been really, really a bold piece back then. Nowadays, it's probably conservative, to some extent, in the classical music spectrum, right? But as far as other composers, for this piece in particular, I was very, very inspired, obviously, by the Duraflay Requiem. You can hear a little bit of that in there. Oh my gosh, it's been so long since I wrote it, I can't remember anything else at this point. Yeah, for sure. Taverner. John Taverner's The Protecting Veil. It's a cello concerto. You can hear a little bit of that. Of course, I only parodied one piece in it. In the last movement, you heard the Stabat Mater chant, which is a Catholic chant. So I used that in this piece as well. So I love early music and those kind of things. Very good question. Yeah, Dr. Chwicki.
Sorry, I wasn't able to get here until
Yeah,
at the end of
no problem.
the excerpt. But the last section, you mentioned Messiaen, but that last
Yeah.
part
Yeah,
definitely sounds to me like it has harmonic kind of world of Messiaen and
absolutely.
even some of I don't know, the way the violin is playing over the harmonies is reminiscent of the parts of the quartet for the
Yes.
very much that kind of floating.
Yeah, now that you say that, I do remember taking, I think, one little progression. It's the 1-4 progression. I can play it from the Quartet for the End of Time. But there's actually another piece of his that was influential in this piece too, so I'm glad you brought that up. It's an organ piece from the Livre de Saint-Sacrement, which has this similar type of where the harmonies just kind of descend and the melody kind of rises, and I use something from that as well. So you're exactly right. I gain inspiration from all of these, and you can use those in your piece. So
And it's interesting because to me that is a really beautiful moment. And
thank you so much.
It is, in a sense, the most out there.
Yeah,
In a sense. I mean,
absolutely.
The 20th century techniques.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, when we talk about, being traditional, I think we should be aware that we might actually enjoy something that is a little bit more modern than we might think. And that's
Absolutely.
because that section is probably it does seem to come from a more modernist perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Dr. Chalky. Any other questions? Any other insights? Yeah, Paul.
So I'm curious, I'm obviously out of my league here with the music part of things, but I'm going to ask you more a humanities kind of question. I'm curious, is there any kind of tension that you have at a state school writing explicitly religious music? Is that ever a problem?
That's a fantastic question. I think writing sacred music is always a problem, but writing what you're passionate about is never a problem. And you find that doors open. There are people that want to engage with your kind of music. And we talked about Olivier Messiaen that Dr. Chouaki brought up. And he wrote sacred music. Everything he wrote was sacred music, and yet he had a position at the Paris Conservatory in France. He was the composition teacher. So I think they embraced him because he was passionate about what he was writing, and he was a good craftsman. And that's my thing is I can write sacred music. Can it be well crafted? Can I do it in a way that people want to engage with? And luckily I work at a university in Texas, and Texas is like religious capital. I mean, they just don't care. Everybody goes to church down there. So they embrace that kind of thing. Probably a little bit more than some other places. If I was up in New York or something, maybe look down on it. But I'm passionate about it. I'm so glad you brought that up, and I don't care. Life is too short. I've dealt with brain surgery and cancer. and I just don't have time to try and worry about what other people think I should write. And this is what I'm passionate about. This is what moves me, regardless of if nobody else is ever moved by it. My heart just screams when I hear this music, and I've heard it 1,000 times. I still am taught when I listen to this piece. And that's with anything you guys do. Are you passionate about it? Do what you love. Life is short, and we need that. We need you. We need your passion. Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question. Wonderful question. Any other thoughts? Any other insights? You guys are awesome. What a great audience. So gracious, so nice. You have such lovely smiles. I just wish you the best. I hope you stay in touch with me, Facebook me or something, and just let me know what you're going and what you're doing. And thank you for being just a wonderful audience. Thank you. Thank you.